You're listening to Real Britannia.
A warm welcome to you all. Hope you'll thoroughly enjoy our programme.
Oh, hello.
It's the Real Britannia podcast, a very British podcast about very British movies with just a hint of professionalism. Good morning, Scott here. As always, we are back into James Bond territory and the end of the first tenure of Sean Connery with You Only Live Twice. Joining me, as always, is my regular host, my dear friend Stephen. Hello, mate.
Hello, mate.
Couple of guests today. We've got Mark. Hello.
Hi.
Good to see you, mate. And we've got Hal. Hello.
Hello, guys. Thank you for having me back on another Bond film.
You are both welcome. Four of us together in the same Zoom studio, as it were, the virtuals of the Zoom studio. It's James Bond, You Only Live Twice, 1967. Here's the trailer. We'll be back after this.
Welcome, Honourable 007. He's the one and only Sean Connery.
Welcome to Japan, Mr. Bond.
He's bigger than life, facing 1,000 deaths. And you only live twice, and twice is the only way to live.
We're too late.
Well, at least he died on the job.
Bond is dead.
Bond is alive. Kill Bond! Now!
No matter what the odds, they don't stand a chance against James Bond, Sean Connery, 007. Bond, the world's greatest gentleman agent with a license to kill. And he never misses a chance.
What's a nice girl like you doing in a place like this?
Bond is back, grabbing love where he finds it.
Like a lamb to the slaughter.
Everywhere. Bond rises in the east. The odds, 1,000 to 1, but they don't stand a chance.
Get down!
All this is just a drop in the ocean. The best yet from the film creators of 007.
Tiger said, from now on, you must do everything in Japanese style.
Everything?
There we go. That's the trailer for You Only Live Twice. Released in the UK, 1967. Directed by Lewis Gilbert. Starring, of course, Sean Connery. Akiko Wakabayashi. I'm going to apologise for all of
It's
this
easy
in
for you to
advance.
say.
Yes, I'll apologise. Mihama Terushimada. Donald Pleasance. There we go. We've got Lois Maxwell, Desmond Llewellyn, Bernard Lee, of course. Charles Gray pops up. We'll need to talk about his appearance. And hidden somewhere in the Hall of Fame, we've got people like Shane Rimmer and Burt Kwok who will need to be discussed at some point. The briefest of synopsis, as always, on IMDb describes the movie as James Bond and the Japanese Secret Service must find and stop the true culprit of a series of space hijackings before war is provoked between Russia and the United States. I'll kick off briefly with this. This used to be, for years, my favourite Bond. If anybody was to ask me, in a heartbeat, I would go, yep, You Only Live Twice. As always. The shine has come off of this for me, not because of the uncomfortableness of the of the racism that we may talk about at some point. Nothing to do with that. It's just that I've learned to appreciate things like Goldfinger and Thunderball a bit more. But the appeal for this one, for me, is the spectacle. The whole thing with little Nellie, the whole underground lair, the vastness of the sets and the design of this movie. Not necessarily the story, not necessarily the acting. It was just the whole look of this movie was always a favourite for me. But some of the earlier ones have sort of overtaken it a wee bit now. Who wants to kick off with some memories of You Only Live Twice?
Well, I can start at a very young age if that helps. I saw this as a special double bill. They re-released it, I'm going to say something like 72.
Yeah.
With Thunderball. So I got to see this, and Thunderball and this as a double bill when I was 7.
That's a long old time to spend in the cinema, isn't it?
Absolutely loved it, though. Absolutely loved it. This one in particular, though I really enjoyed the first part of Thunderball as well. I got a bit restless towards the second part of Thunderball. But, however, this film, absolutely brilliant. My mother still tells the story of when we came home from the cinema, I'd say, I want my hair cut and it's got to be straight because I had curly hair. I want it straight, like Sean Connery, right? Not knowing it's a wig.
Of course.
This is my favourite Sean Connery film.
Okay.
Still is. Sean Connery Bond. It remains so. Though I recognise From Russia with Love and Goldfinger are better films. I absolutely acknowledge that, but this is still my favourite to watch.
Yeah, more fun, a lot more fun.
Yeah.
For me, when I was young, getting into Bond sort of around the age of 10 or 11, this one shot straight to the top for me, in terms of just the really defining the formula, coming up with that iconic kind of arch-evil nemesis in Blofeld with the cat, the incredible set design of that volcano crater lair that comes up. And I really enjoyed the plot and how exciting this one was and how it builds up to that incredible climax towards the end. I'm kind of the same as you in terms of ranking it now as an adult, being aware of the things that haven't aged as well. It's a tricky one, really, because I watched it the other night, probably for the 10th time in my life, and still loved it, though, and still loved it. I think overall, if you're talking about personal rankings, this probably comes in all time about number 4, I would say, behind 3 or 4 other just unbelievable ones that have gone up in my estimation over time.
It's difficult not to hate this film, isn't it?
I have to say it's probably my 4th as well.
I think overall I would put this as my joint favourite Connery with From Russia with Love, because I think From Russia with Love was very important and so incredible for... I think what I love about some of the old Connerys is how they defined one country. They're very much building that tourism part of it. From Russia with Love, that you have the most incredible location filming in Istanbul.
Yes.
And this one is pretty much all set in Japan.
It's a love letter to Japan, isn't it? Absolutely.
Yeah. Audiences at the time, particularly Western audiences, probably wouldn't have been that exposed to, imagery and location
the
filming
only thing
in Japan.
I could think of, Hal, when I was watching this, and Mark will definitely back us up on this, Tokyo Olympics was only a couple of years before, wasn't it, Mark? 64?
Yeah.
I believe so, yes.
So, that would have been most Western audiences' experiences post-war of Japan. So you can see why Japan was selected for this particular one, because I will get to it in a second, but this wasn't supposed to be the one that was going to be recorded, it was going to be filmed next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, even for me, young, growing up in the late 90s, early 2000s, this, when I thought of Japan, I always referred to this film.
And honestly, Japan still looks fantastic in it. It's not like, oh, that's like old-fashioned looking now. Tokyo still looks absolutely spectacular and modern. You know, to our eyes, I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The volumes of traffic in Tokyo alone back in the 60s is staggering. You know, we weren't used to those volumes of traffic until like late 80s, I think.
That's true. And this is what we were saying, like right at the top of the show, that visually, you could forget the plot if you really wanted to, but visually looking at this, and it's not just the interior set designs that Ken Adam designs, it is the exterior, the location work. It's a beautiful looking film from start to finish.
Yeah, and we'll probably get into this later, but the score was magnificent and complemented the visuals.
One of the best Barry scores, yeah.
Unbelievable.
Stephen?
Yeah, when I originally saw this when I was younger, absolutely, it ranked right up there near the top, and I think Hal's identified good reasons for that with the iconic way they've done the villain, and especially with the takeoff of that for... When I was a child, there was Inspector Gadget with the shadowy character with just the arm stroking the animal. But there was that volcano lair, which obviously is a trope now, but at the time wasn't, was absolutely stunning. And to see that and think of the magnitude of the villainy that would need to be created, a hollowed out volcano with the entry point through the fake water. Absolutely, it sticks in your mind and does, especially as a child, resonate with you as far as that villainy. Certainly there's a number of lines I winced at, and as I say, the racism didn't come across as light-hearted as it did when I was a child. And then reading into some of the background stuff where off-the-cuff comments by Connery were either taken out of context or he tried to backpedal from things that he did actually mean. Haven't presented it well with regards to that as well. So it's a bit difficult.
I think the problem with this film is, compared to the likes of Russia With Love or Goldfinger, is those plots actually make sense. The behaviour of the characters and stuff like that. Whereas this is pretty much Saturday morning serial story levels, isn't it? Like James Bond walks out of a place and there's blokes following him down the street in a black sedan with a machine gun hanging out the way. Things like that, right? It was silly. It was a silly film, but it overcomes it with the iconography and the sheer action and spectacularness of it all, right? Whereas the other ones are firmly based in the books. They're very close to the book. Doctor No, not so much, but the other ones are fairly close to the books, and then this one goes mad. This one goes completely bonkers.
I think what we get here is a turning point, because Connery, during filming, has already said that he's not coming back. And I read reviews that you can see the weariness in Connery's face, that, he's just going through the motions through a lot of this film, and his heart's not in it. But what this movie does, it sets the template for Eon Productions going forward, and it proves that the franchise is actually bigger than the actor playing the lead. The star of this is the set design, it's the stunts, it's the music, as you said, Mark, and it demonstrates that Bond can survive a change in tone as well, a change in location, and then eventually the change in actor. It proves that the franchise can continue. But what you do get is this wonderful time capsule of late 1960s. You get that mixture of the space race, the optimism of, man going to the moon in the next couple of years. You've got this oriental fantasy almost, because it's a world that we've never seen before. And what you get is a big budget film that I think you can't replicate, even in these days of CGI. It's never been replicated, on that scale.
No. And the iconography has become a joke, isn't it, really? But there's a reason it's become a joke, because it's so striking, right? It's so striking. If you look at Austin Powers, it's this film.
It is, yeah. I was just going to say that. Yeah, it is this one.
A bald villain with a cat in a volcano. What else do you want from James Bond, right? Ultimately, we all kind of want that whenever we go see a James Bond film.
That's
now.
what
It's
we
like,
expect now.
Oh, they haven't done it this time. Okay, maybe next time.
I think that's why I didn't like Man with the Golden Gun so much, because he didn't have he had the Hall of Mirrors or whatever, his funhouse, but it never had that sort of big sort of set piece at the end that you come to expect from now on. But it wasn't going to be You Only Live Twice at this point, was it? It was going to be, was it On Her Majesty's Secret Service? I think was the original choice as the next one, but they couldn't find snow in Europe.
They didn't have time to scout locations, is what I read.
I thought I'd read the snow was that it was the opposite. It was too bad with the snow that you could be right, but I thought it was the other way around, that things were too bad. It was one of the worst winters in the Alpine region and stuff, and so they couldn't do it there, and therefore that you may be right though. It's just I may have misread what I when I was looking.
Yeah, it was something to do with the weather conditions.
Anyway,
to do that. So they turned to You Only Live Twice, and now Roald Dahl is brought on as scriptwriter. Now he was a personal friend of Fleming, wasn't he? I believe they were both.
Well, the personal friend and during the war, don't mention it, but they were both in the same service and in the same team, basically. So that's why they ended up being friends, because they were both served together.
Okay, so he's brought on board. Is Fleming still alive at this point?
It is the last film released during, I think it's either the last film released while he was alive or based upon the last book he released while he was alive. I can't remember which.
I think he passed away in 1964.
Right.
Just looking here, so
it's the last book. Then I think I read something about it being the last book or something over. So it's tail end of that era of him being around. So yeah, it just passed away then before this.
Okay, and what they found, the producers, that trying to adapt You Only Live Twice from the novel. Somebody mentioned it's a travelogue heavy story. I think, Stephen, you said, didn't you? And Mark, you've read it.
It's not so much a travelogue as more, this is what Japan's like. And I'm not talking about the countryside, but it's a very it's a Western, strong Western filter on all that. But when I read it as a kid, that was my perception of Japan, because I didn't know any better. What he said about the Japanese is what I thought the Japanese were like. I've learned it's different, and it wasn't that awful compared to some of his other stuff. When he talks about Koreans, for example, it's awful. He seems much more kindly towards the Japanese culture than he has to other cultures. Let's put it that way. Okay. So it's kind of interesting from that point of view. But if you read it now as an adult, knowing more about the world, you'd be like, "Oh, that's an interesting 60s
take on it,
British take on the Japanese culture." Not that is Japanese culture, if that makes sense.
And so the big sort of change in the plot point of this is in the book. Blofeld is holed up in a thing called the Garden of Death, which is a castle on the Japanese coast. And by all accounts, there are no castles on the Japanese coast. They're all inland for defence purposes, apparently. So the producers couldn't find this castle that they were looking for. So Ken Adam comes up with the volcano idea. It was Ken Adam that actually sort of suggested it, and Roald Dahl incorporates it into the script from what I've read here. So that's a real piece of good fortune that sort of develops the story into what we've all picked on as being one of the highlights of the movie is the whole set design. Did you read this story, guys, that when they were out scouting trying to find the castle, they were booked on a plane to go somewhere? I can't remember where it was, but they cancelled.
It was back to Tokyo.
Was it back to Tokyo? But they cancelled last minute because they wanted to scout for this castle that didn't exist.
Now, I read that they'd been asked to go if they'd been invited to a ninja demonstration.
That was it. Been to a ninja demonstration.
Yeah.
So they didn't go on this particular plane, which crashed and killed all 130 odd people on board.
I read that. Yeah. Freaky, isn't it?
One of those weird sort of turns of fate. Let's get into the story. We've done lots of background and we'll pick up on lots of sort of the background tales and trivia and stuff like this. Does anybody want to give a better synopsis than what IMDb gives us? As brief as you can, or as in depth as you want. Entirely up to you. Where do we start? It's the space race.
Bond dies.
Yes. As a kid, what was your reaction to that? Because I thought, hang on, where's this going? When I very first watched this as a kid, it's like he can't be dead.
As a kid, this is one of the reasons why it stood out to me because I was like, this is taking a real turn early on. You know, Bond's died, and there's a kind of fake funeral.
Yeah.
Going on, and then he turns up in like a body bag, and they unzip him. That scene, actually, watching that this week, there's a fairly major plot point or detail which comes across as quite daft already. It's kind of convenient for the plot, really. When they shoot him out the submarine, supposedly that military funeral is taking place, I expect, off Hong Kong harbour, and then now we're supposing that he's swum ashore and suddenly he's in Japan. So surely that's a bit geographically inconsistent.
The other thing is, they didn't actually need to put him in the body bag at all, because he just goes back to the same ship he was thrown off of. So they
Does he? I can't remember.
Oh, it's a different ship.
He gets shot off a ship, and then he gets picked up by a submarine, which apparently one's a ship and the other one's a boat. I know from uncles who were in the Navy who used to correct me all the time.
Okay.
So obviously that's they get him on the submarine in the harbour in China, and then follow the coastline round, and then when he jettisons out, that's when he's in Japan.
But to be honest, when I watched this at 7, it was like, well, he can't be dead. The rest of the film's got him in. I mean, I knew that at that age, right? So it's also a reprise of the beginning of From Russia With Love, isn't it? Where we see him kind of die and then not him.
No, I didn't. That's what I was saying. The first time round, watched it, I didn't realise how it picked from others. And even some of the ones that were the novels that hadn't yet been filmed, it picks a little bit from them, as well as making its own story up separate to the book. But yeah, if you don't actually pay the attention to the logistics of it, then that's, I think, with all of the films, there's lots of it and stuff. You have Ben Affleck flying in a plane within a couple of hours, flying from California to New York with the Enigma code and Pearl Harbor. You've got to suspend some of the factual information for a lot of films, haven't you? Let's face it. But yeah, it perhaps was unnecessary. They could have just got him into Japan without having to go through all this rigmarole of, you know.
I like the idea of him dying just to keep everyone off his back for a while.
Is it the risk that they think that if they fake bury him on land, that somebody's going to come and dig him up to check he is actually there? Or is it because he's allegedly a naval officer and therefore he has to be buried at sea because it's some kind of archaic law that as a naval commander you have to be buried at sea? I don't know what.
No, but the entire plot's like that, right? I mean, plot. It's sequence to sequence, but it's so exciting it doesn't really matter.
So just going back to the actual death scene itself in the bedroom. Yeah, so the bed, he's in bed with this whatever lady who must be working for some sort of enemy.
She's still alive. She's in her 90s. She's still alive and acting. Yeah,
wasn't she in Casino Royale? The Daniel Craig.
She played a bit part as some kind of bystander or not just an extra. But yeah, she's still acting in. I think, if I remember correctly from looking at IMDb, she was in something just the other year. Still acting. She's like 96 or something.
Bloody hell.
In this scene, you already get a bit of that uncomfortable dialogue.
What's the uncomfortable dialogue in this scene? Because I can remember some of the other.
About why do Chinese girls taste different to other
differently. That was yes, we all winced at that. The bed flips up and these two guys come in with machine guns and shooting. So what are we saying here? That the two guys with machine guns are firing blank bullets and the lady doesn't know what's going on? Or are these guys genuine assassins?
Oh, I thought she was in on it too.
She's in on it because she then meets him in Japan, doesn't she?
Is it the same? Right, okay.
Yeah, because he makes some comment about picking up where they left off. But so she's in on it.
All right, so if she's in on it and these guys been brought in to pretend to kill Bond.
I don't know if they have been brought in to pretend to kill him. I think they are the genuine assassins.
Right.
And the bed thing was a ruse devised with her in order that he could pretend to be dead, because they can shoot the bottom of the bed. He can
then put fake blood on his chest.
He can put fake blood on to make himself look dead, whereas they won't actually see the bullets hit him because I think that the assassins were genuine. She was a double agent.
Okay.
And she probably, this is just me extrapolating and making it up, obviously, but she probably gave them the tip that he would be there in order for him to be killed, just so that they could have this ruse of killing him off as a disguise.
And it appears genuine right, that makes sense now. That's been bugging me for years, how that whole thing was set up and who knew what at the time.
It took me about 2 minutes, but yeah.
Another question. Is this the first time that we've seen M, Moneypenny and Q in the field?
Yes.
It is, isn't it?
No, you see Q, I think, in
Thunderball.
In
Right?
Thunderball.
Q you see out, but Moneypenny and M. No, this is the first time they're out of London. Yeah.
The only time I can think, is.
So we head to Japan and we get this wonderful sort of Japanese sequence of all the locations, as you said, Mark, and the sumo wrestling, which is filmed in the genuine arena, isn't it? This is all done on location. First time I think they've allowed anybody to film it there. And did somebody mention there was a lot of backstage friction between Connery and sort of like Japanese officials or something? Because he was being harassed, wasn't he, by the press quite constantly at this point?
Yes, he had to have a team of about 20 odd people to keep them aware, press and one obsessive fan. And there's something I read about the fact that real incident that pushed it too far was the fact that there was some photo published of him on the toilet in the Tokyo newspaper, and he was getting very irritated about the fact that the press and the people in Japan more generally kept referring to him as James Bond, and he even turned up to an interview and they said, is this how James Bond dresses? He says, I'm not James Bond, I'm Sean Connery, and I like to dress comfortably. And he didn't have his wig on and he just had a t-shirt and sort of tracksuit bottoms on. I think that might have added to the fact that he started being a bit rude with regards to the Japanese, which then probably tipped the balance of them not being so favourable towards him as well with the press, which then escalated things, I would expect.
What do you guys think of this whole sequence in Japan? Because I think this is wonderful, because as Mark said, you get this real snapshot of a very modern, vibrant country sort of juxtaposed with the ancient traditions of the sumo wrestling and these wonderful modern office buildings and all of that, sort of like the traffic and the cars and all of that. I love that sequence before it goes into sort of like the real sort of camp spy sequences.
Yeah. I think this must have done their tourism industry the world of good.
Yeah.
Actually, because it looks such an intriguing place in this film. Such a vibrant and exciting kind of place, especially Tokyo. But also the countryside was lovely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought the countryside was, the whole country was filmed in a sort of considerate and positive way. It just looked great, and like I said already, the music really helped as well, because it just made it look relaxed and lush and just wonderful.
The music is quite important, because as we all know and love the previous John Barry scores, he's using different instruments, isn't he? He's using traditional Oriental instruments as well as those wonderful sweeping strings that we usually get, and it really works well. Really works.
And I think this is John Barrett top of his game.
Yeah.
Really is. This and On Majesty's Secret Service are amazing soundtracks, but this is the best James Bond soundtrack in my opinion. I think you've already said that, Scott, right, as well.
It's one of my favourites. Yeah. How you were going to say, mate?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think John Barry's score lifts Thunderball for what it is. And in this one, it does exactly the same. And on A Majesty's Secret Service, this is him at the peak of the whole Bond franchise for me on a music level. But yeah, going back to the culture side of Japan, yeah, I love that it does this deep dive into all of the ancient traditions, like the sumo arena. Because I mean, that meeting, they could have held that anywhere really, but they chose to hold it at a sumo event to really do tribute to Japan. And then as we progress, we get these rituals and the meeting with the girls. But I think, dialogue aside, they're doing it with all in good intentions. That they're trying to pay tribute to these ancient traditions and weave that into the plot.
I think at the time it was the way things were, and they genuinely thought they were actually paying a compliment to Japan and the people, rather than actually been in any way negative or taking the mick or deriding them or whatever. And put that in context, that it was a unenlightened time in some ways, and therefore that's reflective of it. But I do think that the way they shot it, like you said, and the way that they were trying to show the cultural icons, like the sumo, yes, you can understand, seems very exotic to particularly 60s Britain, but it is something that's very Japanese, and therefore they were wanting to show it. And where you've got, arriving at the village once he gets married, and there's the Shinto priests filing past with the funeral. It's showing the culture, as you said, the ancient culture, as well as some of the bright, hot electric light of innovation that there is over there. I do think that they were trying to be complementary, but obviously in a way that maybe is a bit more colonial, where you're looking down upon another country and thinking that you're doing them a favour by civilizing them.
Because part of it is almost like the characters, these Japanese characters, and the whole story is almost about enlightening Bond himself. Because Henderson says to Bond, you've never been to Japan, have you? And we're taking Bond for this worldly character who's kind of been all over the place. But this is all kind of, it's a learning experience for Bond. And some of his comments are kind of meant to come across as a bit ignorant and a bit like this is totally foreign to him.
That actually makes sense, yeah. That it's a whole new concept to him, that he's only ever been posted on missions in sort of like Eastern Europe and, like you say, Istanbul or whatever it may have been. Yeah, perhaps this is his first experience of travelling east. You never know.
He seems to have friends in China. At least one girl, but that's
also he's got a double first from Cambridge in Oriental languages.
Yes,
got to remember that
conveniently. Yeah.
Who knows? Roald Dahl and his inconsistencies, eh?
It's amazing this is his first screenplay, because actually it delivers. The plot contrivances are ridiculous, but actually on the spectacle front it delivers. One major difference I found with this film compared to the earlier ones is, in the earlier ones, Bond's a thinker. He does act a lot, but he also thinks about things, and he plans and he considers. In this, he's just a luck box. He just goes from lucky thing to lucky thing, right? Oh, yeah, this works for me. I'll just follow this guy. Oh, it's taking me to this place. Great. I'll have a drink. Oh, Siamese vodka. All that, right? And that's Roald Dahl doing all that. But it works, and it sets a template, right? It works, and it sets a new template for Bond.
Doesn't Broccoli bring Roald Dahl back to do Chitty Chitty Bang Bang?
Yeah.
He does, doesn't he? The following year or whatever, yeah. Just going back to the score, and in particular, the theme song. Mark and I were chatting before you two joined us, guys, and we were talking about our admiration for the theme song in particular. What are your thoughts on the Nancy Sinatra, the song?
It's one of the best. It's one of the best, and what's ironic is that apparently she was so nervous about doing it, she couldn't do it all in one recording. They had to edit it down into like at least 5 or 6 different recordings to get it to flow. But it's sultry, but it's also melancholic. It's a beautiful sounding soundtrack, and it's very, very fitting for the mood of the film, I think, and for the beautiful, the actual instrumentation behind it.
Yeah, over 25 takes apparently.
Wow,
that's what I read.
Oh, was it 25?
And obviously, like, Barry has to splice them all together to get the final vocal track. Mark wasn't aware of this. I don't know if you guys are. That it was originally offered to her dad because he was real close friends with Cubby Broccoli, and he turned it down and suggested that Nancy sing it, which they jumped at the chance to do, which works really. And Mark said, "Oh, I can't imagine Sinatra."
No, that would have been a mistake.
I can imagine.
Nancy Sinatra feels like something modern. Shirley Bassey's old school, Tom Jones is old school, Matt Monroe's old school. That Sinatra's not so much.
Yeah, but it works. It does work for this particular song. And also, John Barry wanted Aretha Franklin to sing it.
I can't imagine that. It might have worked.
I can imagine Frank singing it more than Aretha Franklin, but I can definitely see why they would have wanted a different sounding to and also attract a different kind of audience.
Apparently, but it was recorded before by a British singer called Julie Rogers, and I listened to that just before we record. It sounds way more like Shirley Bassey than Nancy Sinatra.
Didn't Julie Rogers do the wedding song? Was that her?
Yes, is that
the one?
Yeah, way more Shirley Bassey. So I've listened to 3 different versions of this soundtrack that were recorded at the time, apparently, and I think Sinatra's. It may be because I know it better, but I think it sounds so much better than the others. So much better.
Yeah, it's a great tune. It is, like as you say, Hal, top tier, absolute top tier in the Bond themes.
Yeah, and the actual instrumental Mountains and Sunset is in my top 5 pieces of instrumental music of all time. Brilliant. I just think it's such a beautiful piece of music.
Yeah, we'll say the whole score, everything really works musically with this movie.
Well done, John Barry.
Well done, John Barry.
I think I'm contractually obliged to mention he's from York.
Yes,
of course you are.
And you have met and are friends with his stepdaughter.
Well, his niece dated my best friend for a while.
There we go. Yeah. We'll mention that as well, just in case. Moving on from Japan and the wonderful sort of scenery, we get the first sign of the gadgets, don't we? I mean, he hasn't used anything up to Little Nellie, has he? He hasn't used the cigarette yet. Has he opened the safe yet with the safe cracker?
Yeah, it just happens to have a safe cracking. Yeah, again, Roald Dahl, Saturday morning picture, serial logic. He just happens to have a safe cracking thing in his pocket. Yeah.
Okay, but we haven't seen this. And doesn't Tiger give him the cigarette rather than Q?
No.
Can't remember now.
It's not. It's Q gives him it, does it?
It's Q, yeah.
Okay. So.
Because Tiger doesn't approve of cigarettes. He mentions it a few times, don't he, about cigarettes killing you.
In more ways than one in this movie.
Yeah.
I think that was a reference to old Fleming.
Oh,
you know, he was a 60, 80 a day man, wasn't he? Or something ridiculous.
Chain smoker, yeah.
But also Blofeld mentions it later as well about the nicotine.
Yeah.
So
there's a few nods there, isn't there? But Dahl's got a evil sense of humour, isn't he?
Yeah, it's very dark, as we know. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like it's amazing that he kept his racism to the Japanese rather than brought in some of his anti-Semitism. Yeah.
What did you guys think of the Charles Gray scene with Henderson?
Was it tacked on a little bit, or does it explain, like you said, Hal, that Bond is actually a stranger in a strange land? To be honest, it does explain a lot about Bond's character, doesn't it? That he is a
Well, yeah, I think for to kind of explain that, you kind of need to have Bond meeting another Westerner. And it's convenient for it to be a Westerner who now lives in Japan
that's out the book, right?
Is that lifted from the book? Because that seems something like that.
He's an Aussie. He's an Aussie in the book, but still working for the British Secret Service, as I guess they're an Australian branch. He serves much the same purpose, much longer in the book. He's there for a couple of chapters. In this, it's as short as it can possibly be. So
one scene, isn't it?
It works fine. It's weird to see Charles Gray though. Knowing.
I think it's great. I think he's brilliant in this scene. He's fascinating to watch. He's so much better in this than he is as Blofeld later on.
Not my favourite Blofeld or favourite Bond movie, as we're going to get to in a few months' time. We get to the Little Nellie scene now. Is this the most choreographed sort of action sequence we've had so far in the Bond films? We've had car chases, we've had fights on trains, but this is something different. This is another level, isn't it? This whole aerial sequence.
Somewhat. I mean, they tacked a bit of this kind of stuff on the end of Russia With Love, didn't they? With the boats.
You had the boat chase,
and also the end of Thunderball somewhat. But this is significantly more spectacular. And I really like they were obviously at the place filming 4 helicopters chasing a gyro in the countryside. Look great. The shots. There was some great aerial photography in this film.
I'm glad it paid off since apparently one of the cameramen lost a leg.
Lost a foot. Yes, yeah. He was leaning out the helicopter, got too close to the blade of another one, and chopped his foot off.
Jesus.
But he comes back for, I think, On Her Majesty's Secret Service with a prosthetic leg. but then dies in the early 70s in some other accident. Apparently, he was like the unluckiest cameraman in the world.
Yeah.
And what I like about this, whoever did the editing must have got together with John Barry or Monty Norman or whoever, because the editing of this aerial sequence is done to the Bond theme. It really does. Even the explosions at the end, and it's all in sync.
It's timed so perfectly for the whole Bond theme. Yeah, I was getting that on this watch as well, and also in regards to Little Nellie itself, it's very much for the gadget lovers of the whole franchise now, because they come up with this cute little helicopter and called it this funny little name, and they have about 20 seconds of camera footage of snapshots.
Oh yeah, that was comedy, wasn't
shots of it being constructed. I thought that's very unique.
It was put in because there was a radio interview with his name's gone out of my head now. The guy who invented it. Yeah. There was a radio interview with him, and he was talking about it, and so they tracked him down, and he's the one actually flying it rather than a stuntman or amazingly not Sean Connery. Amazingly,
what you mean Connery didn't fly that?
I think his flying ability is probably as good as his acting. Sorry, as good as his accent.
Oh, I'm surprised.
But yeah, so that's why they decided it was a real life gadget that existed rather than something they were making up like some of the other stuff.
This is similar to a later Moore movie. What's the one with the little plane that's folded up in the horse box at the beginning?
Is it
Octopussy at the beginning?
Octopussy. Yeah, similar thing. That guy invented that plane, and they brought it in specially like years later to use.
Yeah, and the flying car. I believe the flying car in Man with the Golden Gun was also something someone saw on the telly.
Yeah.
And I don't think it like attached. It's there was a flying car, and they came up with things saying.
What you were going to say? The flying car in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
No, well, that was the other one. Yeah.
There was something said, and I don't think this is necessarily true, but there was something said that this was bringing in the gadgetry, the sort of innovation from the West, so it wasn't just showing that Japan had this lead on gadgetry and technology. And they were showing that we're still there in the game, as it were.
Yeah. Well, let's start with the Aston Martin, right? The Aston Martin. Then there was this. Then there was the Lotus in Spo Love Me, and so on, right?
Apparently, this is the first one where Bond isn't seen to be driving at any point in the entire film. I know with the driving, one of the reasons why he wasn't driving is because he couldn't fit in the cars properly.
The convertible Toyota wasn't convertible. They had to cut the roof off. Yeah, and the only two in existence that are convertible were for this film. Yeah.
Yeah, because he was too tall, which, surprising considering there must have been a man of his size that he managed to get the shoes off.
Yeah. Spats as well. Very elegant, yeah. Well, not spats, but black and white shoes.
Black and white shoes, yeah. So we move into the final sort of act of the film, which is the big spectacular finale.
We have glossed over him having plastic surgery.
Perhaps this was intentional that I glossed over this part.
he had a form of plastic surgery done on him in order that he could pose as a husband. She apparently had a face like a hog or something over, a face like a pig, which I don't think she was that bad. It was notable to me that once he'd gone underwater, this plastic surgery was seemingly dissolved by salt water. At a certain point, he stopped looking like a bad cosplay version of Spock with the eyebrows and the eyes made to be a different shape, and his hairline been like Mark wanted, straight. It seemed to be all undone very quickly just from. And I'm not sure plastic surgery gets undone that easy. They just forgot, seemingly, that he'd had surgery.
It's fascinating, all the surgery and dying and all that. All the women, it was only women, and they all had to wear bra and pants while they were doing it. Yeah, how about that? That's amazing. Is that a new hygiene thing or what?
When all the ninjas turn up, and miraculously they all turn up with their full outfits, but they forget to bring one for the bikini-clad woman who then has to do everything in her bikini.
We haven't mentioned that the two lead female actresses swapped roles. Is that right, Hal? What's the story there?
Yes. I don't know. I think it was a level of English.
Yeah, Mihama's English wasn't particularly good. Is that right? She threatened to kill herself.
So I don't know if that was forced or whether it was a mutual decision.
No, no. What happened? She threatened to throw herself out of the hotel window if they sacked her. So basically, rather than avoid a death on the set, that they swapped the actresses over so that the one had the less English lines became, yeah.
Which is odd because virtually all of the Asian characters in this film, almost all of them were dubbed anyway. It shouldn't really be an issue. I mean, even Burt Kwok was dubbed. It's only when they were speaking Japanese where they're not dubbed. So it seems unnecessary to have switched them, considering that all she needed to do was mouth the words.
Yeah, but that was the story behind it. She actually threatened to commit suicide. So they swapped the two roles over. We'll do the final scene after the Hall of Fame because you mentioning about the dubbing, I'm sure Tiger Tanaka's is Robert Realty, I believe, who did Largo and amongst other things as well. We're going to have to double check on that in a sec. Let's go into the Hall of Fame because we mentioned off air lots of familiar faces that have cropped up in Bonds before, amongst many other things. Stephen, grab your keys, mate. Let's take a walk up the path to the Village Hall of Fame. Village Hall of Fame, where anybody that's appeared on the show 3 times or more gets inducted. Stephen, as the curator, takes charge of a huge cast list, usually. I'm assuming this cast list has got some depth to it.
There is more people in this that have been in other Bond films that we've had than sometimes in other films of an entire cast list. Of the 93, including the director, 93, there's 45 that have been in other things that we've done, Real Britannia, and 31 of them have been in other Bond films. Going on to those that have actually achieved the status of getting, which is the highlight of their careers, achieved the status of getting into the Hall of Fame by virtue of having 3 appearances in films that we've covered. There were 9 of those. Robin Bailey was in Hell Drivers and Just My Luck. George Baker, who we recognise from plenty of things later on in his career, was in The Dam Busters and North Sea Hijack. Ed Bishop, an American who is the voice of Captain Blue, I believe, on Captain Scarlet. He was in Lolita and Restless Natives, which is quite a separate one.
Yeah.
Sai Chin was in Bridge on the River Kwai and Violet Playground. And I've got down Diane Cliento because although she's not listed, she did do body doubling for the girls who couldn't swim as his wife and the other agent, the Japanese girls who neither of them could swim. So she put on a black wig and the white bikini and swam with her husband pretending to be. So I've got her down, I think, Anyway, she was in Admiral Crichton and The Wicker Man previously. Donald Pleasance, who absolutely don't need to explain with him. Eagle Has Landed and Look Back in Anger. George Mersel, who was in Campbell's Kingdom and in Hell Drivers. William F. Sully from Russia with Love and Chris Fowl, and Peter Taylor, Man of the Moment and Reach for the Sky. They all, as I say, inducted, and well done to them, and their seating arrangement will be forwarded to them. 9 people making their 4th appearance. Anthony Chin, Lewis Gilbert, which obviously I will say that he was previously Admiral Crichton, Educated Rita, Reach for the Sky. Charles Gray, entertainer, Rocky Horror Show and Theatre of Blood.
Of course, I didn't realise we'd seen him so many times.
Exactly, yeah. Richard Graydon, who we don't recognise.
Richard Graydon's a stuntman. He's on all the extras on all the Blu-rays. If you watch the extras, Mark, on your Blu-ray set, Richard Graydon is the stuntman that's always doing the interviews. Okay. Quite a distinguished-looking guy in a suit.
I didn't spot him in the film, but Fraser Hines is in there.
But he's the voice of the sidekick who does the countdown.
Yeah, just the countdown. Yeah, that's it. I remember now.
Doesn't sound like Fraser Hines at all.
The long arm, one good turn, and next to the unknown previously for him. So Patrick Jordan, Alexander Knox, Arnold Lee, and James Payne. They also had 4 appearances. So well done to them. One person, 5th appearance, which doesn't need any explanation because that's Ian Fleming.
Okay, yep.
2 people with regards to 6th appearance, which is Roy Lansford and Ned Lynch. Then we get on to 7 appearances. Lois Maxwell is one of those. And like you said before, Robert Rioty, who, although physically wasn't there, he was the voice dubbing over Tiger.
He made a career out of dubbing other people's voices, Robert Rioty, yeah.
I mean, he did appear in some films physically, but he also got away with that as well. 8 appearances, there's 2 people with that, Peter Evans and Desmond Llewellyn.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Desmond Llewellyn was previously Curse of the Werewolf, From Russia with Love, Goldfinger, Lavender Hill, Mob Night to Remember, Sapphire and Thunderball. 3 people making 9th appearances. One of those is a guy called Sean Connery.
Up to 9, he's nearly into double figures, and I bet they're not all Bonds, are they? Obviously, because there's only 5 of those. So.
No, absolutely. John Howard has also made 9 appearances, and Bernard Lee
is 9 for Bernard Lee. Yeah. Excellent.
And finally, one person making their 12th appearance.
Hang on, guys. Do you want to take a guess? Who's possibly going to be 12?
John Barry?
No, I've not listed him for the score, but maybe I should have done. But no, it's not one of the ones that's the big hitters that we are familiar with name-wise. It's Fred Machon, or Machon, depending on how it's pronounced. Big Job, Carry On Nurse, Cruel Sea, Just My Luck, Legal Gentleman, Man of the Moment, Night to Remember. So we do get a Night to Remember in here.
Desmond Llewellyn was Night to Remember as well.
Yeah, Private Progress, Sweeney, ! Trouble in Store, and Up in the World. So
wow, so only 12 is the top.
So the 12 is the top one for this. And, it's obviously worth noting that there's, I think it was 23 people that obviously weren't going to appear in many other films that we've covered because they were Japanese natives. Now, there are a few people like Cecil Chang or Dennis Chin or Michael Chow who have been in other things. I mean, Michael Chow was in Violet Playground, so there's a few of them and might have appeared in things that where they're playing Chinese characters.
Michael Chow, I think, Mark will remember this series. I think Stephen vaguely will. I think was the Chinese guy in Mind Your Language, the TV show.
Possibly,
There wasn't a Chinese guy in
or Japanese.
Japanese.
Yeah. There's the Chinese girl, wasn't there? And then there was the Japanese guy.
Yeah, Japanese guy. Yeah.
And let's face it, back in those days, if you were from Asia, you qualified regardless of your actual nationality. Whereas now we're recognising that, people from Japan and people from the Philippines are 2 separate nations.
But thinking about it as well, guys, is this all on location? Doesn't go to the UK at all.
Feels like it's all on location, apart from Hong Kong, right?
Hong Kong and Japan.
There is some filming that was done, I think, Pinewood.
Oh, yeah.
Studio stuff, obviously.
The volcano.
But the exterior stuff. And obviously you've also got in this, not just a lot of people, natives of Japan, etc., but you've got a smattering as well of people who, Americans, playing parts that were only in this and not in anything else as well, because as far as we're concerned, they were strictly American actors. So it brings it down a lot. So it does show there's a concentration. And like I say, 31 that were in other Bond films already does show that it's that usual thing of returning to people they already know and recasting them, even sometimes recasting them in prominent parts, like like you get with Charles Gray and etc. But
wow, Stephen, thank you. That seemed a little bit easier compared to the Norman Wisdom last week, which was just absolutely insane.
Yeah, and that was my own fault, really, because, I'm the one that pushed for us to be getting back on with Normal Wisdoms, and so I have to accept that. But, no, I mean, with the Bonds, you expect it to be a big cast. It's not going to be like some of the ones we elsewhere we'll cover on Real Britannia that's maybe a cast of 3 or 4 people sometimes. Yeah.
Cool. Well, next week we're returning to the kitchen sink dramas, I believe, so that should whittle it down a wee bit for you. Excellent Village Hall of Fame. The grand finale, bit we've all identified as one of the highlights of this movie, or the highlight of the movie. It's all there on the screen, guys, isn't it? It's a massive set. It's huge. It's what the Bond movies are known for, and this is where it comes from, isn't it?
Yeah, that explosion with the ninjas all coming down on ropes, it's just so cool. It's so cool. It's kind of cheesy, but it's cool as well.
And it's not just the amount of people coming down on ropes. We've got working monorails. We've got staircases, and it's just all happening. There's a rocket.
There's a rocket. I just want to say something about this set. Not just the set, but the special effects. The special effects are really actually very good. Obviously, we can often see it's a model, it's Thunderbird's kind of model, you can see that. But they do take time to establish, like, there's a scene where a helicopter comes down within the volcano, and you see it coming down. It looks like a model, I think, but there's people walking around in the background.
Yeah.
So is it false perspective? Is it a split screen thing? I don't know how they did it, but it looks really good.
The thing is that it's really well paced as well, because when Bond's in there, he first steals an astronaut's outfit, doesn't he? And he climbs into the moving little car, and that really helps you kind of get the layout of the whole lair and the geography of it, and that builds the tension. As it gets on, and as he's getting in the lift, that's when he's obviously spotted on camera, and Blofeld says, "Stop that astronaut." But I can't remember what it is he does.
He's taking his air purifier onto the actual rocket, whereas because you get plugged into an air purifier in there, you don't need to take that with you. That's to give you air while you're actually in the suit, but you're actually beside the rocket. So it would be left with the crew outside and not taken in because you're about to. So that was where he spotted that he was a substitute or an imposter, because a real astronaut wouldn't take that bit of kit in with him. He would have handed that box over that was in his hand. He would have handed it over.
Yeah. It's weird how some of the script is so preposterous, but there's also these little nuanced touches like that.
Attention to detail.
Where it needs to be, but otherwise it's silly. There's a lot of it. So I have to say, I really like the special effects in this film. I know there was a lot of model work, but there's some really nice little sort of touches of pathos. For example, when we see the hunter ship, hunter spaceship closing in on the other spaceship, and the one's doing a spacewalk, and it just closes and cuts off his airline. You just see him floating off into space in silence, and it's like, wow, that's quite the touch to add to a film like this.
Yeah. Well, if you're saying you're talking about attention to detail and technicalities, then he wouldn't float off. He'd just stay where he was, because.
Well, the air would just all blow him somewhere. Yeah. Well, anyway, doesn't matter.
Stephen's getting into Newton's law.
The science of it,
Just like little touches like that. Thought they were cool.
Let's not dig too deep, guys. It's a Bond movie, for God's sake.
yeah. All right, fair enough.
At one point, I was going to try and count the amount of times, because you must imagine there must have been at least 50 or 60 stuntmen on this set. You know that traditional sort of fall that stuntmen make when they land on an airbag? They do that flip over, don't they? And you can tell that they're stuntmen because they all fall in a certain way as they fall from a height.
Yeah. Black.
It was. Go back and watch how many times there are stuntmen falling from height in this particular sequence. It must happen 100 times. These stuntmen must have been knackered by the end of this, because that's all they seem to be doing is just falling, and it's incredible. And you've got all these explosions going on. And I'll tell you what I noticed as well for the first time. Mark, you mentioned the guys coming down on the ropes. Did you notice the sort of plastic sleeve thing that was on the ropes that they're hanging on to so that they don't burn their hands?
Yeah, like white thing, right?
No, it's like a black sort of like tubing thing.
Yeah.
So that they slide down holding on to this thing. And I'd never noticed them before. I just love that whole sequence. Finding the lair, and as a kid, it was like, wow, this is what a movie is really all about. This is so great. And it sets the template, as we say, for the villain's underground lair or the villain's hideaway.
I have to say, they also struck gold with Donald Pleasance as Blofeld.
Just about to say, you don't see him again, because like throughout previous 4 movies, we've heard a voice, we've seen a cat, We've seen his feet, whatever it may be. We've never actually seen him. He's never been unmasked. And as we all know, Donald Pleasant's not the first choice.
No. Much better choice than the other alternatives as well.
Have you seen the actual footage with Jan Weirick, who was the guy?
No.
Oh,
I've seen
right.
Pictures. Okay. I've seen pictures.
Yeah, he looks like, to me, a bit like, how Edward G. Robinson was about this sort of time in his 70s, he had that sort of very similar look to an elderly Edward G. Robinson. But Lewis Gilbert, he said he looked like a kindly Santa Claus rather than an evil mastermind.
He kind of looks like a skinny Burl Ives in the picture.
Burl Ives, that's another one he looks like, yeah. And they just said it didn't work. And there is footage of him in the suit. So Pleasance was brought in last minute, has to wear the same suit, luckily fits into it. And in this age of 4K and Blu-ray, you can see on the left sleeve where the cat has been scratching the suit as well.
Apparently, it also, because of it not being an actor, the cat not being been spooked a bit by some of the stuff that was going on around, it kept pissing on him all the time, apparently.
There's a bit on screen where an explosion goes off and the cat is struggling.
Yeah, the cat goes mental.
Yeah, have you seen that? The cat is struggling.
Yeah. I was thinking Donald Pleasant's getting scratched up badly there, man.
But that's a nice touch because we finally get to meet Blofeld, who has been a staple for, he wasn't in Doctor No, was he? Spectre isn't mentioned in Doctor No really as such.
Russia with Love, I think.
Russia with Love is the only one, I think. But they mention Spectre a lot, but from Russia with Love is the only one when you hear his voice and you hear.
He feeds a fish to a cat, doesn't he?
And to be fair, at the beginning of Thunderball, when they're all in that big room, all in that massive meeting room, and he's at the hidden away, but you got his voice on that as well. But again, no actual reveal of who Blofeld is.
Isn't the voice in one of them the guy that's in Doctor No? The guy that gets killed?
Anthony Dawson.
It's Anthony Dawson, isn't it? I think he's brought back to play him or something. Is that right? Yeah.
That's the voice, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is ironic because he's in Doctor No.
Exactly.
Yeah. But it's just a wonderful climactic moment when he finally peers across and reveals himself with that piercing kind of stare. And actually that kind of stare I read in a quote as to the quality of it, and it said Donald Pleasant's piercing stare can take enamel off of saucepans, which I thought was very apt.
It is what you want. You need a nemesis. You need to see that nemesis in a James Bond movie,
and you want it to be slightly theatrical.
A pantomime villain, don't you? Yes.
Yeah, but I don't think it gets too silly. I think we only view it with that kind of parodying element now we've seen Austin Powers. But at the time, that would have been wonderful to watch and very original, And
also
the piranha pool as well, things like that.
Brilliant.
Amazing. Right.
Yeah, they need some sort of inventive means of death. And apart from the big guy at the piranha pool, there's no notable henchman in this, is there?
No.
No,
apart from the secretary, she's the henchwoman.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's about it, really.
Yeah.
No one else stands out, isn't it?
But that's a good fight with the henchman as well, because the guy is a foot taller than Connery, and I like the fact that Connery finds it quite difficult to take the guy down. You
get that quite a lot in Bond films, don't you? To be fair, in later ones, like when Bond is surprised by how bigger the henchman is, like in Jaws, like when actual Jaws turns up in the Roger Moore one.
True, yeah.
And he completely overpowers him and is almost double his height.
Yeah.
And starts throwing him around, and Bond's got to come up with a smart way to overcome him.
It's nice to know that he's not invincible. Exactly, yeah. He can't tackle them all the same.
We've got to have a little bit of realism in this.
Yeah. I have to say, I was watching this film again. I thought, which other ones did Lewis Gilbert make? And then it's like The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker. It's like, oh yeah, they're remakes of this. Both of those films are remakes of this.
It's a shame as well because Lewis Gilbert was a great director. Does one of the best Bond films in this, and then I think he does two of the weakest ones for me. I don't rate those two at all.
Oh, okay.
That's interesting because I really like Spy Who Loved Me.
So
hated Moonraker when I first saw it. Learned to love it.
Yeah, I did.
Learned to
well.
love it. But really cool.
Can't wait till we get to those. This will be interesting. Winding this up a little bit. I mean, we've all watched this. Hal's 10 times. I think we've all watched it in double figures, probably over the the course of our lives. This movie, And we've all said it's top tier Bond, number 4 for most of us. It's going to be a top 5 Bond movie. And can we just sum up what makes this a great movie and one of our favourite Bond films out of the 25, 26, whatever there is now? Is it the formula? Is it the fact that they have found the formula that makes, like I said, it's proved that the franchise is bigger than the actor now, I think.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's how unique and how memorable it is. That's how I would say. It doesn't,
Okay.
this would always stand out from the other Bond films because it's set in such a unique part of the world.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many memorable kind of unique moments in it with the first revealing of the Bond villain, setting the formula as well, that iconic volcano lair. This really kind of sets the template for Bond as a franchise and as we know it for future generations. That's why I think it stands up as one of the best. And I think there are things, as we said earlier, that are not easy for younger viewers or not long-term Bond fans. But I think the qualities definitely outshine the bad things, I would say.
It is iconic, and that's one of the things that it has going for it to make it more memorable, like Hal says, that stay there as this being almost a quintessential Bond, at least of that early era, before it really started to get reinvented and them seeking a bit more realism in the more modern times. And because it does have all that iconography that then has become the subject of parody and identified as being what this kind of film is about, and particularly a Bond film is about. It does present a bit of a difficult watch, as far as a critical thing with regards to the race and sexism. But, it's a product of its time. It does bring in all the elements of the Bond films as people think. And I think we've had this conversation before with regards to No Wisdom and the Carry-Ons, that bringing in elements from previous films to make it all the ingredients in one go finally at a eventual point. And although that makes it seem like a parody of itself in some respects, that is, I think, more as a retrospective when you see what then came afterwards, where they were mining some of the same ground. Whereas this was like the culmination of the first few films. Not my favourite of the first few films, but certainly, like Hal says, it's better than some of the ones that did come afterwards.
Stephen, did you say this doesn't make your top 4 of all time? Where would this sit for you?
It doesn't, because of the fact that it is that iconic and brings all the elements together and is very much a Bond film. So from the perspective of it being quintessential Bond, then absolutely it's in high up there. But as far as enjoyable to watch, it's more enjoyable to watch either because of the spectacle in some ways, or because of the ability to sit there and take the mick really without all about how like how he looked when he'd had the plastic surgery, or some of these elements, and just like in almost see it as being a bit of a joke of itself. So there's a joy in watching it, perhaps different reasons there. But yeah, I think I struggle to have a top 5 Bonds anyway, because it's just it's fluid depending on mood. I'd find that one difficult to answer. Really.
Mark, your final sort of summation, sir?
Well, this, I think Hal said it right when he said memorability. It's such a memorable film. There's no doubt about it. There's a reason, I think. I think this film is a reaction to the success of the earlier Bonds and what they caused in the rest of the world. We had your Owlman Flints, we had your Matt Helms, we had all of that kind of stuff. There was even one with Sean Connery's own brother in.
Okay, Connery. Yeah, there was. That's why there was a problem on set with regards to Bernard Lee and.
They were in that, weren't they?
Because they were in that with his brother, and he was quite frosty to him about it.
But yeah, this was like the producers looking at all these other films and like saying, "Hold my pint," right?
Yeah,
rolling up their sleeves and really, really giving it some. So successful was that unless you're a diehard into that sort of era and stuff like that, you don't know about Owlman Flint and Matt Helm. This is the quintessential James Bond film from the 60s, right?
Absolutely.
Even more so than Goldfinger, I'd say. Though as I've already said, I believe Goldfinger and From Russia with Love are much better films than this.
Yeah.
However, this is my favourite.
You enjoy this more.
Connery. I enjoy this more. Basically, Bond's a kind of a cartoon character in this film compared to those other films. He's giving off the one-liners, and some of them did make me spit my tea out. Actually, I was just, did he just say that?
Yeah, drop in the ocean.
Yeah, well, that's one of the more tame ones, right? But there was a few that was like, wow. I was thinking, is Talbot Ralphwell involved here somewhat? And I don't mean just the sort of sexist and racist ones. There's just certain lines. It's like, wow. But I don't want to repeat them. You go watch the film. But yeah, it's the memorability. This is a standout James Bond film. It just burns away all the competition completely. It's that, and because of its iconography, it's become it's easy to parody. It's easy to parody your Elvis and your Humphrey Bogart because they're so iconic, right?
Yes.
And this is in that class of iconography, I'd say. And the music and the look, the music and the look of it is, you can just listen to the soundtrack. It's amazing. It's an amazing sound.
Yeah, it's the pivot point, as I say, that it stops becoming a spy thriller, and the series becomes superhero blockbuster almost. And despite the complications to modern audiences of the whole yellow face and the plastic surgery, I think the influence is undeniable. We've said it. It's not just Michael Myers. It's everything that can parody the success of this. But the spy genre is so influenced by the volcano lair, the piranha pool, trapdoors, villains with scars, bald heads, whatever it may be. And as you said, Mark, it's not just this. It's Matt Helm, it's In Light Flint, it's all of that sort of stuff that there is spy overload at this point in the 60s. But this still stands head and shoulders above all of them. You know, they're snapping at its heels, and it's just proving that the whole Bond franchise is going to go on for another 30 plus years, you know. So it's excellent, absolutely top tier Bond. Let's take a quick break. We are going to be back in just a while after this with what we're watching next time. Today's Our Tune is a story of a man we'll call James. Back in the mid-60s, James had a job that most people could only imagine. A life of high stakes, shifting loyalties and constant danger. But as he tells us in his letter, it was a life that had begun to take a heavy toll. He felt like a man without a country and a man without a soul, moving from one hotel room to the next, never knowing if the person across the room was a friend or a shadow. He told us he had reached a point where he felt he was just waiting for the end. Then his work took him to a remote corner of Japan, to a tiny fishing village tucked away beneath the cliffs of a volcanic island. To carry out his mission, James had to undergo a transformation. He had to disappear completely from the world he knew. He took on the life of a simple fisherman, living among the local people, learning their ways, and eventually entering into a marriage of convenience with a local girl named Kissy. Kissy was an Ummer girl, one of those brave divers who plunges into the deep cold waters every day to harvest the sea. At first, for James, it was all just a game of shadows, a clever bit of theatre to keep his enemies at bay. But as the days turned into weeks, something shifted. In the quiet of that village, away from the gadgets, the cold steel and the endless secrets, the mask began to slip. He found himself actually living. He woke to the sound of the tide and the smell of salt, and for the first time in years, he wasn't looking over his shoulder. He found a peace in Kissy's company that he hadn't known since he was a boy. She didn't care about his medals or his past. She only cared about the man who sat with her on the rocks at sunset. James told us that there's an old saying, you only live twice, once when you're born and once when you look death in the face. On that island, James felt he was living that second life. He was happy. He was, perhaps for the only time in his life, truly at home. But the world of shadows never stays away too long. A darkness was rising in the mountains above the village, and the mission reached a violent, explosive climax. James survived, but as the dust settled, he realised the cruel reality of his life. He couldn't stay in the sunshine of that island. The world needed the man he used to be, and he had to return to the cold reality of his profession. James is an older man now, long retired from that world of secrets, but he says he still dreams of that island. He's asked us to play this song for Kissy, and for anyone who's ever found a brief, beautiful heaven, only to have the world call them back to the dark. There we go. That's You Only Live Twice from 1967. Our next episode from Classic Bond, we're going to Classic Carry On, is Carry On Cabby, which hopefully marks the return of former host Tony, Stephen, which will be great to see.
Well, absolutely, yeah. Been a while, as we say. It's completely within his wheelhouse, obviously, of films. So we've managed to entice him back, hopefully, if all comes to pass.
And hopefully Tony will be with us for Carry On Cabby. Now, we've just had a little chat about whether to pursue George Lazenby on Her Majesty's Secret Service next, but as Stephen pointed out, just prior to this, the spoof Casino Royale was released. Does it feel right to include it, lads? I think we ought to, don't you, if we're doing a sort of chronological...
Yeah.
Is it British enough, Hal?
I think so. I would say, from memory, I would say it's 55% British.
That's enough then.
Just about. Yeah, I think Steve.
Yeah, I mean, David Niven drags any film into 55% British, doesn't he?
Deborah Kerr.
Yeah, that's enough. Yeah,
and Deborah. Oh, weird little aside. Just got to mention this. David Niven is actually mentioned in the book You Only Live Twice, specifically by Kissy Suzuki, because she names her pet pelican David after David Niven.
I've got to go back to the book. I don't remember anything about the book at all. I'm gonna have to.
But wasn't Niven good friends with Fleming?
Yeah.
Yes, as well. And in fact, Fleming wanted Niven.
I think originally, Dr. No,
yeah, it would have made sense. Yeah, I think Stephen might have his work cut out with the Hall of Fame again on Casino Royale.
Oh my God, yes.
Oh, that's a point.
Everyone's in this. You got Ronnie Corbett.
That's true. I forgot about that as well. Stephen, are we going to include this in the Hall of Fame, or are we doing this just as an aside?
Yeah, include it in the Hall of Fame. I'll just make it work. It's just because those people, if they appear in something else, then it's worth noting. So, and as you say, there've been a number of Americans in it that don't necessarily figure. It'd be the same as this, where the list I end up clicking on and finding out there's not been anything else that we've done, and
we'll never see them again.
So it makes it a bit easier there. So it might not be as troublesome as it could be. So
I don't know if Ronnie Corbett's been in a film before.
Ronnie Corbett will appear in the Saucy 70s sex movies.
Yeah, no sex, please. We're British. Yeah.
There he goes. We had to get that
I have
in
to
somehow.
mention that. So, Carry On Cabby will be our next episode. The next Bond movie, which we are going to do, Casino Royale from 1967, will be in about 3 months' time, 3 or 4 months' time. We're going to try and get 3 Bond movies a year at least in, just to try and knock a hole into this huge list that we've got to cover. Before we go, I'm going to thank Hal for joining us once again. Hal, did you want to spend a couple of minutes chatting about couple indemnity before you go, my friend?
Yeah, just to fill in that gap for anyone who hasn't heard me talk about it before. It's me and my partner Izzy. We talk about all sorts of films, not just British, history of Hollywood, foreign films, all types of genres. There's no limits, really. We've covered everything. And we do throw in, a bit like Mark, we throw in the odd... Well, Mark's got a whole podcast about episodes of television. We throw in the odd episode of television mostly from my suggestion, but we do all sorts. We've got Gregory's Girl coming out tomorrow, and then we're doing All the President's Men. So
that's a completely different movie to Gregory's Girl.
Yes. there's no kind of running theme really throughout.
It sometimes works best that way, I find.
Isn't there someone dressed as a penguin walking around in the back of All the President's Men, or am I dreaming?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's what it is.
Deep Throat was dressed as a penguin in the car park scene. Yes, that was it. Yeah.
Look out for that. Yeah.
A huge thank you to Mark as always. Let's hear about the good, the bad, and the odd, my friend.
Oh, I'll keep it as brief as I can. We just cover all sorts of movies. We're doing Disney as a special subject lately. We're getting through the 50s and their sort of travelogue, the 40s and their travelogue ones, compilation ones. But we will be in the real classic era soon, Peter Pan and stuff like that real soon. Also do Anthology, which covers anthology TV. And Scott and Stephen are on those more recent ones, our phase 2 ones, where we're doing deeper dives, and hopefully we'll be covering Tales of the Unexpected, getting back to Roald Dahl real soon. And also I run one called Telepathic, which is seasons of TV, episodic TV specifically, with a strong hint of Star Trek. But we cover it. Gary and I are covering all sorts in that too. So yeah. Go to www.thegoodthebadtheodd.com.
It's all there. All that wonderful goodness. Lovely. Stephen, thank you for Hall of Fame. Thank you for absolutely everything. As always, my friend, thank you.
No, my pleasure.
Gentlemen, we'll see you all very soon. Thanks once again. This has been Real Britannia. Take care. See you later.
Cheers, guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
Shower. A positive shower.
Bon voyage.
Goodbye!
Good luck. Thank you.
bring the British end up, sir.